I'm a 26-year-old man living in Tennessee near the Great Smoky Mountains. I've been a fan of true scary stories for years now, but I've never really wanted to share this story of mine, mainly because it genuinely disturbs me to no end and has mentally scarred me. In order to move on with my life, I had to put it out of my head for a while. But after watching some videos and doing some serious self-reflection, I've decided to share this and let all of you judge it for yourselves. This happened a year after I graduated from high school. I had just started working at a local convenience store, one town over from where I lived. I had been working there for about a month and a half. One night, I was working a little bit later than usual. The employee who was meant to relieve me never ended up showing up. I called my manager to tell him the employee was a no-show, and he wasn't exactly surprised. Apparently, he'd been having multiple issues with that guy and expected him to quit sooner or later. Listen, I'm really sorry about this, but I'm going to need you to stay until closing time and lock the place up. Call me if you need anything. It was no big deal for me. I actually liked working by myself most of the time. The store stayed open until around 9:30 or 10, depending on if we had any customers inside or not. I was cleaning up one of the aisles in the back of the store after helping out some customers. I had one earbud in my ear, listening to an audiobook on my phone. That was when I heard the front door open. I walked to the front counter to see if this person would need any help. The only problem was, I didn't see anyone there. At first, I thought they may have walked directly to the bathroom since it was right next to the entrance. But after waiting about 10 to 15 minutes, I walked over to see if it was locked. To my surprise, it was unoccupied. The door was slightly cracked open, and the light was turned off as well. I opened the bathroom and flipped on the light just to make sure there was no one in there. There really wasn't. I suddenly felt uneasy. I looked back out into the store to see if anyone else was around. I even called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" There was no answer. I was starting to think that either I was just getting tired or there was something wrong with the door chimes. I decided to ignore the strange occurrence and go back to cleaning. About an hour and a half later, though, the door suddenly chimed once again. I walked back to the front, and again, no one was there. I started thinking to myself that surely there had to be something wrong with these damn chimes. I wrote a note on the register to tell my boss the next day. A few minutes later, the door chime went off again. I looked up toward the front of the store and saw that the doors were actually still open. This time, I quickly made my way to the front. But when I got there, there was no one to be seen. I knew for sure I had just seen the doors open when the chimes went off. I checked the bathroom again and even walked down all of the aisles. A chill went down my spine. Not at what I did see, but the fact that there wasn't a single soul in sight. It was so strange. I didn't really understand what was happening. I decided I was just going to stand by the front counter until my shift ended. I had about 45 minutes left. 20 minutes went by of me just hanging out by the counter when someone actually came in this time. "Good evening," I said to them. The person that came in was wearing an old winter coat with a black hood on their head. This wasn't out of the ordinary, though. It was 40 degrees out that night. The person didn't respond to my greeting. I figured they either couldn't hear me or didn't want to interact for some reason. I didn't really mind it too much. Maybe they had a pair of headphones on under their hood or something. They walked over to the back of the shop. Since closing time was coming up, I began to clean the counter. About 20 minutes had gone by, and I realized that the person I'd seen earlier had never come back to pay for anything. I looked all around the store's area and saw there was no one there. This was a small, privately owned store that didn't have much in the way of security. The area it was located in saw little to no crime. We only had one camera facing the front door and one in the parking lot. I called out to this mysterious person, "Hey, you finding everything okay?" I got no response in return. "Look, I'm closing in 10 minutes. Is there something I can help you with?" Again, no response. I walked to the back of the store where I'd last seen the person, and another chill went up my back. I saw one of the fridge doors was open, but there was no sign of the mysterious figure. I closed the fridge door and walked up and down every aisle. I didn't see anyone. I was so creeped out before, but now I was full on freaking out. I decided at that point I would walk back up to the front and call my boss. "Hello. Hey, it's me. Something weird is going on here." My boss asked what I meant. "So, this guy in a jacket came in about 30 minutes ago. I saw him head toward the fridge section in the back, and he was taking a while. When I went to check on him, though, he wasn't there. All right, give me a second. I'll look at the cameras and see if he left the building. I also mentioned to my boss about how the door chime had been going off for the past couple of hours, even when no one had entered the store. That's strange. You didn't see anyone come in at all? No, not until this guy in the jacket came in. After a minute of my boss looking at the camera feed, he told me something that really messes with my head to this day. Are you absolutely sure that somebody came into the store? I'm reviewing clips from the past 2 hours, and you're the only person in them. I felt a knot form in the pit of my stomach. What do you mean I'm the only one in the video? Look, I'm telling you, you're the only person in the store walking back and forth from the aisles to the counter for the past 2 hours. This was when I started to second-guess myself. Did I really ever see someone come into the store at all? I took a long look around. I thought maybe I was just tired. Sorry, I haven't been sleeping well lately. It's okay, just go ahead and lock up for the night. Go home and get some rest. Sound advice. I began to close everything up, putting all the money in the safe, cleaning up the counters. That's when I heard laughing coming from the back of the store. It wasn't really a ha-ha funny kind of laugh. It was more of a sinister chuckle. I stopped what I was doing and looked up to see that the fridge door was open again. Now we kept a baseball bat behind the counter just as a precaution. None of us had ever had to use it before, but I grabbed that bat and wielded it like a saber as I advanced toward the back of the store. The fridge door was open again. That was the least of my worries, though. A hooded figure was standing just beyond the open door. Holy shit! How long have you been back there? The figure didn't answer. I gripped the bat tighter. Hey man, are you all right? That's when a deep, raspy voice replied, I'm thirsty. Okay, is there something I can help you with? I'm about to close up here. I heard him chuckle again. I began slowly backing away. Something was off about this guy. I didn't know if he was on drugs or what. Look, I've got to lock up now. How about you grab a drink? Come on up, and I'll get you out of here, okay? The man just stood there. The reflection off the glass of the door and his hood made it impossible for me to see his face. I decided it wasn't a good idea to engage any further. I retreated back to the counter, grabbed my phone, and called my boss. He answered after the first ring. Hey, that guy I said was in here earlier. He's standing by the fridge right now. He's just standing there, chuckling like a lunatic. I can't get him to leave. What should I do? My boss went silent for a moment. What does he look like? I don't know. He has this black hood on, under an old winter jacket, a pair of jeans, and some black shoes. All right, hang on. I'm on my way to the store. Stay on the line until I get there. Why? What's the big deal? Just stay on the line until I get there. Watch that guy and see what he does. If he doesn't leave within the next few minutes and I'm still not there, call the cops on the store phone. I waited by the front counter for my boss to arrive. He lived about 5 minutes down the road. While I was on the phone with him, I heard the fridge door slam shut, followed by a loud crash at the back of the store. I nearly jumped out of my skin. The next thing I knew, I heard the sound of someone running up toward where the counter was, but I couldn't see anyone. After a moment, the noise abruptly stopped. Hey, you still there? What's going on? My boss told me to call the cops. I quickly set my phone on the counter and started dialing 911. I heard another chuckle and looked up to see the hooded man standing in front of the counter. I jumped back and got ready to take a swing at him with the bat if I needed to. At that point, I finally saw the man's face. There was something very unnerving about his appearance. It wasn't just that he was creepy, but his appearance was somewhat unnatural looking. It almost looked like his face was somehow a botched job in Photoshop. Like his crooked smile didn't look real. It looked unnatural. It reminded me of an old Grinch Christmas cartoon I used to watch as a kid. A few seconds later, I heard a car pull up outside the parking lot. I glanced over to see who it was. The second I took my eyes off the hooded man, he sprinted out of the store. A moment later, my boss came rushing in. He asked me if I was okay, and I said he just missed the guy. The cops arrived and the security footage was reviewed. It showed somebody in a black hood running out of the store right before my boss came in. After everything was said and done, the cops told me they would keep an eye out for this guy. The camera didn't show his face, so they didn't get a good exact physical description of him. I tried to give all the details I could, but it wasn't much to go off of. Technically, the guy didn't commit any crimes either. My boss and I cleaned up the store and locked the place up. He then told me to go home and take a couple of days off. That was the last time I ever worked the late shift by myself. As far as I know, the police never caught up with the hooded man. Personally, I feel like it was either someone with serious mental issues, in which case I hope he found help, or something else that I don't really know how to explain. Either way, I hope I never run into that guy again. This happened just over 2 years ago, at the end of my first year of university. I'm a woman, and at the time I was 21 years old. My university is in a very large city, and I was living in university accommodation, a short walk away from the main campus. My flatmates had all finished up their exams and gone home for the summer, so I was there all alone in my flat. I was pretty stressed out because I was in the middle of my first round of university exams. I decided that it wouldn't be prudent to waste my precious study time cooking, so instead I ordered a large pizza from a large pizza chain. It was about 8:30 in the evening when my pizza arrived, so just on the verge of getting dark. My block of flats had a key card entry system, so the pizza delivery guy couldn't just come right to my door. I saw his car pull up outside. As I mentioned, this is a fairly big chain, so their cars were easily recognizable. I went downstairs to go get my pizza. The delivery man stepped out of his car as I walked over. He was tall, stocky, and looked to be in his late 20s or early 30s. He handed me the box. "Oh, thanks," I said, and made to walk away. The delivery guy, however, seemed to have other ideas. "Hey, you're really pretty," he called out to me. I wasn't sure how to respond, so instead, I just said, "Thanks" him again. Then, most disconcertingly, he asked this: "Are you home alone? It sure looks like it." This set off my creep alarm right away, so I told him I was not. Clearly, though, my order was meant for only one person. I was in a largely deserted block of flats at the very end of the school year as well. He deduced pretty easily that I was lying. I was thoroughly creeped out at this point, so I turned around to walk back to the door of my flat block. As I walked away, he wolf whistled, then called after me, "Wow, nice ass. Want to have some fun?" As I walked up the steps, he continued to whistle, whoop, and follow behind me. Needless to say, I closed the door in his face and locked the door to the block of flats. Then the door to my flat, then the door to my room as well. Had this happened more recently, I would have called the pizza place right away to report the incident. At the time, though, I was not in the best state of mind. So instead, I ate my pizza and put the whole incident in the back of my mind. I felt pretty uneasy about the fact this guy now knew where I lived. Moreover, the other residents of my flat block were wont to let strangers in easily, which made me even more uneasy. The next few days passed without further incident. I finished up my exams and went back to my parents' house for the summer. When I arrived home, I decided at last that I ought to call the pizza place and report this creepy employee. I did so, and the young woman who answered the phone sounded horrified when I explained the situation to her. She immediately handed the phone over to a manager. He took the details of my order, presumably so he could ascertain who delivered the pizza, and apologized profusely. When I heard back from the pizza delivery place, they said no one by that description even worked there. This happened last Friday night. I finally arrived home now, and I really need to get this off my chest. My friend's family owns a pretty big house in a rural area in my state where they spend most holidays and some vacations. They also own an apartment a few blocks away from where I live downtown. His folks usually go there about once a month to check the maintenance and see if there's any mail. Since we're having a pandemic, though, they're not going out to do so as much anymore. My friend rang me up and asked if I could join him. He said he'd need an extra pair of hands. It was about a 4.5-hour drive or so. He came here to pick me up, and we left around 3 p.m. due to his work. We arrived, parked the car, and went to check the house. It was already too dark to check the surroundings. The house itself seemed fine. We had a couple of beers, watched some old DVDs, and made a frozen pizza we'd taken with us before we went to bed. Sometime during the night, though, we heard a loud noise coming from the front door. We were both awoken by this noise and went over to check. It was firmly closed just as we left it. We decided to further check the house, though, and see if something was up. I must add that this house has a door connecting the kitchen to the garage, which has only 2 lamps near that door. Just as we were about to enter, my friend suddenly stopped me his eyes shooting wide open. Before I could even verbally confirm what was wrong, I heard the sound of someone breathing loudly. I looked over to the car and was stunned with surprise when I locked eyes with somebody hiding behind it. Immediately, we ran back inside and locked the garage door tight. I went to call the cops, and he snatched up a knife. The cops came, searched the garage, and found a backpack with a hatchet and duct tape. They said it was probably someone who knew the friend's parents' routine, maybe worked for them in the past or something. Clearly, they were getting ready to attack them. The door had not been forced open, and that indicated that this person had been there before and knew exactly how to get in. They escaped by breaking a window in the garage. We gave our statements, of course, and stayed up all night. After we called his parents in the morning, we even had to stay there while the window and locks were being replaced. Needless to say, we could not get out of there fast enough.